every day.
Well, you don't want to write yourself off.
Right.
You know, and if you're going to hide the fact that you've listen, a lot of people didn't get to 50.
Right.
A lot of people didn't make it, so celebrate for them. That's what I
See, the thing is, the average American probably can tell the difference, but there are sub-average individuals that all they want to know is you're on the list, and they hear you're on the list, and they might try to you.
We've all heard the whispers around Jennifer Lopez, the narrative of survival, reinvention, and resilience in the face of fame's chaos. But a darker counterstory is gaining traction online. Recent unverified claims tied to newly circulated Epstein-related documents have sparked speculation that she may have known more than previously believed. These rumors, amplified by the ongoing legal storm surrounding Diddy, are being framed by commentators as a turning point, not because of proven facts, but because of perception. To be clear, no charges have been filed and no wrongdoing has been established. Still, in the court of public opinion, timing is everything. As trials unfold and documents are debated, reputations can shift overnight. Whether this is substance or smoke remains unanswered, but the scrutiny is intensifying and the spotlight isn't dimming anytime soon.
The Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy.
It began with a calculated data release. On Wednesday, House Democrats published a tranche of Jeffrey Epstein-related emails. Within hours, Republicans responded with more than 20,000 pages labeled the Epstein files. The sequencing felt intentional, less archival, more escalation. These documents weren't presented as history, but as pressure. As expected, familiar names resurfaced, reigniting scrutiny that many assumed had faded. Jennifer Lopez is among those now being discussed online, not because of any charges or formal accusations, but due to claims about her alleged presence at high-profile social gatherings linked to Epstein's orbit. It's critical to be clear, no evidence has been publicly verified and no wrongdoing has been established. Still, commentators argue the context has shifted. With parallel investigations and high-profile trials dominating headlines, even tangential associations are being re-examined. Reports of supposed photographs and unnamed sources have fueled speculation, blurring the line between documentation and conjecture. For now, this remains a story driven by interpretation, not indictments, but the scrutiny is undeniably intensifying.
There was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling agent.
What separates this moment from the endless churn of celebrity Epstein rumors is timing, not proof. This isn't a decade-old party photo recycled for clicks. It's speculation flaring up as multiple, unrelated legal stories converge in the public eye. With Diddy facing a looming federal trial and new witnesses reportedly stepping forward, tolerance for vague denials across celebrity culture is wearing thin. That atmosphere is what's fueling the overlap narrative, not confirmed evidence. Online commentators argue that Epstein's social circle and Diddy's entertainment world occasionally intersected, and that familiar celebrity names are now being re-examined through a harsher lens. Jennifer Lopez's name appearing in Epstein-related document discussions has been framed by some as significant, but no official filing has accused her of wrongdoing, and mere mention does not equal implication. Context matters, and much of what's circulating relies on interpretation rather than verified facts. The tension deepens because of conflicting public narratives. On one side is the carefully cultivated image of Lopez as a resilient, self-made icon who navigated toxic relationships and industry pressure. On the other are claims resurfacing from her ex-husband, Ajani Noah, who has alleged via social media posts in late 2024 that she was aware of Diddy's party culture in the late 1990s. These statements remain unproven allegations, not testimony, and have not been substantiated by investigators. References to an alleged 2001 tape, widely repeated online, sit firmly in rumor territory. Its existence has not been verified, and no authority has acknowledged it as evidence. Still, in the current climate, speculation alone can destabilize reputations. For now, this story lives in the space between documentation and conjecture, driven less by indictments than by public distrust, timing, and the accelerating collapse of benefit of the doubt culture.
As soon as you hook up with a guy, I don't know how a relationship could survive.
It's difficult to be under that, microscope. Yeah.
Does it seem like everything is doomed from the beginning? You know what I mean?
No, I don't feel that. I feel that I live my life very out loud. even though I was in the public eye. And I wanted to share my life.
Then there are her own words, now being reinterpreted through a very different lens. In a resurfaced 2002 interview with Diane Sawyer, Jennifer Lopez was asked directly whether she felt afraid during her relationship with Diddy. Her response wasn't a clear denial. It was hesitant, softened by nervous laughter, and a quick pivot to incompatibility over values and family. At the time, it passed as awkward media training. In hindsight, many viewers read it as avoidance. With Diddy now facing serious federal charges and Cassie Ventura testifying about years of alleged coercion, that old clip has taken on new weight for the public, though not in a legal sense. Fans aren't just rewatching it, they're projecting meaning onto it. Comment sections are filled with calls for accountability, even testimony. To be clear, no court has required Lopez to testify, and no wrongdoing has been established. But as the trial unfolds, the pressure of public interpretation continues to grow, blurring memory, context, and speculation.
Congressional act now to requiring the release, but they're going to say, you know
subject
what?
to
Tom
redaction.
Hanks, it's unfair that he was mentioned
the
because he
law
was eating
says
Skittles.
subject to redaction. Subject to redaction.
And we all know what that means. That's to protect.
That's why I'm saying you will never be satisfied with what's released.
The legal pressure surrounding Diddy is escalating, but it's important to separate what's proven from what's being speculated. His upcoming federal case is widely described as an examination of an alleged network of enablers, an ecosystem, rather than a single individual's conduct. That framing has fueled online narratives suggesting that prominent figures from his past orbit could face scrutiny. Jennifer Lopez's name is often pulled into that conversation because of her highly visible relationship with him in the late 1990s. Visibility, however, is not evidence. Claims circulating online portray her as a fixture in Diddy's world, present at parties, industry gatherings, and high-profile events where boundaries allegedly blurred. But presence alone does not establish knowledge or culpability, and no court filing has accused her of wrongdoing. Reports that a civil lawsuit has identified her as a potential witness remain unconfirmed publicly, and being named as a possible witness does not imply liability. It reflects proximity, not guilt. The same caution applies to renewed chatter around Epstein-related document releases. Lists of names and locations are being widely misinterpreted as indictments, when in reality, they often reflect nothing more than social overlap. Inclusion is not implication, a distinction repeatedly emphasized by courts, but often ignored online. What is real is the reputational impact. Lopez is still active, still visible, and still commercially relevant, unlike many figures whose names resurface in historical scandals. Combined with recent personal changes and a career recalibration, the timing is undeniably harsh. But at present, this remains a story driven by optics, inference, and public distrust, not charges, findings, or legal conclusions.
And I was going from movies to music to movies to music to movies to music to touring to promo to this to that. It was just relentless. And I didn't get a hold of that until I had a breakdown.
How bad was the breakdown?
I was doing the movie enough. I'm in the trailer. I'm walking to the set. Every time I'm walking to the set, my heart starts beating fast. All of a sudden, I sit down.
What's fueling the current backlash isn't a single allegation, but a pattern as it's being interpreted online, a retrospective stitching together of moments that many now view through a harsher lens. Incidents from the late 1990s and early 2000s, including the infamous 1999 nightclub shooting and highly publicized arguments during her relationship with Diddy, are being re-examined not as isolated events, but as part of a broader industry culture that's now under scrutiny. Importantly, none of these moments resulted in charges against Jennifer Lopez, and past investigations did not establish wrongdoing on her part. Still, public perception has shifted. Allegations made by former associates, resurfaced photos, and silence from certain camps, contrasted with sworn testimony from others, have created an atmosphere where optics are doing as much damage as facts ever could. Commentators argue this is less about one relationship and more about proximity to power during an era now being interrogated. Renewed attention to Epstein-related document releases has only intensified that pressure. While sources have suggested additional disclosures may come, no verified evidence has shown Lopez to be involved in criminal activity, nor has any authority indicated she is a target. For now, the distinction remains critical: speculation versus substantiation. In public discourse, that line is blurring, but in a court of law, it still defines everything.
Right now, disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City. Epstein was facing traffic.
There's one final element driving the intensity of this moment: perception. Jennifer Lopez's public silence, no statements, no sweeping denials, only brief, controlled appearances, is being read by critics as strategic restraint rather than avoidance. But silence on its own is not evidence. Public figures are routinely advised not to comment while legal matters involving others unfold, especially when speculation is spiraling beyond verified facts. Still, the optics are undeniable. With Diddy's case approaching, ongoing document releases tied to Epstein Epstein, and the possibility of subpoenas or witness testimony elsewhere, the environment is volatile. Every old clip, photo, and association is being reinterpreted in real time, often without context or confirmation. That pressure has turned silence into a narrative of its own, fair or not. What's actually happening is a collision between legal process and public judgment. Lawsuits exist, allegations exist, but no authority has accused Lopez of a crime, and no court has determined she bears responsibility for anyone else's actions. The coming weeks may clarify facts or simply amplify noise. Until then, this remains a story defined by scrutiny and speculation, not conclusions.
What we're seeing is apparently not everything. We've got indications from the Department of Justice that there are things that are going to be withheld, at least, or handed out at a later date. Now, the law in this case that was passed by Congress and signed by President Trump required that all the Epstein files be released by midnight tonight, Friday, December 19th.
The deeper analysts and fans dig into Jennifer Lopez's early career, the more her past is being reframed, not as a string of random missteps, but as a tightly woven network of professional relationships that now invite uncomfortable questions. Much of the focus has shifted from parties to power and money, where optics can feel more concrete than rumor. In the early 2000s, as her relationship with Diddy unraveled publicly, Lopez released her debut album with heavy involvement from his bad boy orbit. He played a visible role in shaping the sound and rollout during a pivotal moment in her transition from actress to global pop star. At the time, this was framed as mentorship and savvy industry collaboration, nothing unusual in music business terms. What's fueling renewed scrutiny now is hindsight. Even after their romantic split, Lopez's career continued to intersect with artists, producers, and events linked to Diddy's enterprise. Critics online interpret this as lingering allegiance rather than coincidence, though no evidence suggests impropriety, and such overlaps were common in that era's industry ecosystem. As federal scrutiny intensifies around Diddy, these old business ties are being reassessed through a modern lens. Whether they signify something meaningful or are simply artifacts of a tightly connected industry remains unanswered, but the re-examination itself is reshaping the narrative.
Collaborate very well together, you know, and nobody knows my story. The
1999 nightclub shooting remains one of the most scrutinized episodes in Jennifer Lopez's past, and also one of the most frequently mischaracterized online. The confirmed facts are limited. Gunfire erupted, Lopez and Diddy left the scene, a firearm was later recovered from the vehicle, and Lopez was questioned for hours before no charges were filed against her. That outcome has never been legally overturned. What's resurfacing now are allegations drawn from later civil filings and online commentary, claims that Diddy privately boasted about responsibility or that Lopez transported a weapon. These assertions have not been proven in court, and Lopez has never been charged with or found liable for any firearms offense related to that night. Civil suits can contain claims that are disputed, untested, or ultimately dismissed. Still, public reinterpretation is intensifying. Critics argue her long-standing framing of the incident as wrong place, wrong time feels insufficient given what is now alleged about Diddy. Legally, however, allegations are not evidence, and implication is not guilt. The distinction remains crucial, even as narratives harden.
Doesn't it? She probably wants to get out early. So I think that we have more digging to do. I think the DOJ transparency effort here is the right thing, but the reason it's on a Friday, Will, is I think there are no smoking guns. There's other places we have to look.
Well, Buck,
claims like these demand extreme caution because they move from scrutiny into unverified accusation. As of now, no official Epstein file, FBI filing, or court record has established that Jennifer Lopez attended Epstein's residences repeatedly, participated in criminal activity, or functioned as part of any trafficking operation. Lists of names circulating online are frequently misrepresented. Many stem from contact logs, secondhand mentions, or uncorroborated testimony rather than confirmed attendance or wrongdoing. Courts have repeatedly warned against treating such appearances as proof. Anonymous source reporting, whether attributed to former staffers or industry insiders, also requires restraint. Statements given under anonymity have not been tested under oath, cross-examined, or validated by independent documentation. No law enforcement agency has publicly stated that Lopez is a target, subject, or person of interest in any Epstein-related investigation. Reports suggesting FBI interest remain speculative and unconfirmed. The same applies to allegations involving Diddy beyond his current charges. Claims of coordinated appearances, shell companies, or six-figure payments have not appeared in any charging document, indictment, or sworn complaint naming Lopez. In racketeering cases, prosecutors rely on bank records, contracts, wiretaps, and cooperating witnesses, not rumors. If such evidence existed, it would already be reflected in filings. What is happening is reputational relitigation. Past associations are being retroactively reframed through today's revelations. That process is emotionally compelling but legally unreliable. Presence is is not participation. Professional overlap is not conspiracy. Silence is not admission. There is a critical line between asking hard questions of powerful people and asserting criminal conduct without proof. At this point, the former is justified, the latter is not. Until evidence is produced in court, not hinted at online, the distinction between scrutiny and accusation remains not just important, but foundational.
Because this is a big problem. I mean, just related back to what we were talking about earlier with Hollywood too, is that I think a lot of these don't respect the public. They don't respect our intelligence. You know, like I think the average American is smart enough to know the difference between somebody that was just in there or somebody that testified than somebody that was.
What keeps drawing attention isn't just Jennifer Lopez's silence now, but how that silence has evolved over time. In 2002, when Diane Sawyer asked whether she was afraid during her relationship with Diddy, Lopez deflected with nervous humor and generalities. A year later, in a 2003 Vibe interview, she was more candid, describing the relationship as tempestuous and emotionally draining, even scary at times. Then, as Diddy's legal troubles began to surface publicly years later, her voice disappeared altogether. To critics, that progression feels deliberate. As former associates like Cassie Ventura came forward with detailed allegations, Lopez chose not to comment, a decision many interpret as strategic rather than incidental. To be clear, silence is not evidence, and public figures are often advised to avoid commentary on active or adjacent legal matters. Still, in the court of public opinion, prolonged quiet can read as calculation. The longer she says nothing, the more observers project meaning onto that absence, fairly or not, as they wait to see where the facts ultimately land.
I don't think he's very comfortable with me doing all of this. But he loves me, he knows I'm an artist, and he's gonna support me in every way he can.
Things that are private, I had always felt, are sacred and special because, in part, they're private. So this was something of an adjustment.
Claims like this remain firmly in rumor territory, and it's important to draw that line clearly. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck's 2024 divorce was publicly framed as a private decision, with neither party citing specific causes beyond irreconcilable differences. Reports suggesting the split was driven by arguments over Diddy come from unnamed sources, quoted in tabloids, not from court filings, sworn testimony, or statements by either Lopez or Affleck. That hasn't stopped speculation. Commentators point to the timing, coinciding with renewed legal scrutiny around Diddy and Affleck's carefully managed, family-oriented public image as reasons the theory has gained traction. But discomfort, if it existed, is not proof of knowledge or wrongdoing. Couples separate for many reasons, and proximity to controversy is often retroactively imposed on personal decisions once narratives harden. At present, there is no verified evidence that Lopez's silence or associations caused the divorce, nor that Affleck acted on insider knowledge. What exists is interpretation layered onto coincidence. As with much of this discourse, perception is racing far ahead of substantiation, and that distinction still matters.
We got like our 5 kids, me and Jen, and it's like, it feels like hundreds of people, and they're all screaming. And my daughter just turns to me and goes, J-Lo was my step.
What's resurfacing now is not a verdict, but a collision of allegations, timing, and unresolved questions, and it's crucial to keep those categories separate. The 2000 VMAs afterparty has re-entered public discussion because of a civil lawsuit filed in October 2024, alleging sexual assault by Diddy and Jay-Z at the venue. Jennifer Lopez is not named as a defendant, nor accused of participation. A photograph placing her at the event has fueled online debate, but presence at a location is not evidence of knowledge, much less complicity. No court has established what she did or did not witness that night. Still, critics argue that her team's silence on the photo, the lawsuit, or broader questions has allowed speculation to metastasize. That silence, however, is not unusual. Lawyers routinely advise public figures to avoid comment on active litigation involving others, precisely because commentary can be misconstrued or weaponized. In legal terms, silence does not equal omission, and omission does not equal liability. Complicity by omission is a narrow legal concept that requires a duty to act, something not established here. Claims about a financial paper trail require even more care. Reports alleging payments to Lopez from entities later linked to Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell have not been substantiated in court, and no law enforcement agency has confirmed such transactions as illicit or relevant to criminal conduct. Entertainment accounting often involves layered corporations, licensing vehicles, and intermediaries that later become infamous for unrelated reasons. Timing alone does not convert a payment into proof of wrongdoing. What is happening is a reputational reckoning reckoning driven by proximity. Lopez's early career intersected with powerful men who are now accused of serious crimes. That fact invites scrutiny, but it does not establish guilt. Hollywood, particularly in the late 1990s and early 2000s, was an ecosystem of overlapping social, financial, and creative relationships where boundaries were poorly policed. Many benefited from that system without controlling it or even understanding its worst abuses. The most responsible way to view this moment is as an open question, not a conclusion. No indictment names Lopez. No sworn testimony accuses her of crimes. No court has identified her as a subject or target of any investigation. Assertions about FBI interest, repeat attendance, shell companies, or coordinated favors remain unconfirmed and at present speculative. That doesn't mean questions are illegitimate. It means answers must come from evidence, not inference. Trials, document releases, and sworn testimony, not social media synthesis, are where facts are tested. Until then, there is a real risk of collapsing scrutiny into accusation and curiosity into conviction. So where does that leave things? With uncertainty, with pressure, and with a public watching closely as legal processes unfold around others. Whether Jennifer Lopez chooses to speak is a personal and strategic decision, not a legal obligation, and silence should not be mistaken for admission. This story isn't over, but it isn't resolved either. The next filings, the next witnesses, or the next verified disclosures may clarify what is real and what is rumor. Until then, the only defensible position is restraint, demanding accountability from systems and individuals without assigning guilt where none has been proven.